what, to your mind, would constitute clear and definitive proof of genocide?
Well, clear proof of genocide can be determined in two ways. First, let's repeat the definition of genocide. It's the intentional destruction in whole or in part of a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group as such. In other words, you don't have to try to wipe out the whole group. In part is good enough. So, and it has to be intentional. It can't just be accidental. It's also limited to certain groups. I mean, just national, ethnic, racial, or religious groups under the convention. Now, many of us, of course, think that the crimes against humanity that are spelled out in the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, such as extermination, mass torture, and so forth, are, equally terrible. But we also, they're not included. Political mass killing and so forth is not included as genocide. It should have been, but Stalin wouldn't let it be. So the definitive proof would be, you would have to have, I would say, a systematic pattern of actions that meet that are among the acts that are spelled out in the Genocide Convention as constituting acts of genocide. And those acts are, and I will hope that my memory is sufficient to remember all of them. First, killing members of the group. It doesn't say how many members of the group. It doesn't mean that you have to kill 10,000. I mean, if you have killed, let's say, 3,000, and that's what it is right now for the Afrikaner poor farmer community, it just might be enough, even if it's gradual.
Not to mention the urban dwellers.
Yeah, and urban dwellers, which I understand is, what, 30,000? Yeah. Killing members of the group is one act. Secondly, inflicting mental or physical harm upon members of the group that is likely to lead to their physical destruction. This, of course, is the kind of genocide that we've, especially, frankly, Americans have done to Native Americans. Native Americans in the United States have been, relegated to reservations where they've been turned into alcoholics and just, frankly, it's been genocidal in the United States. And one of the things about genocide is it's not something where we can just always, somebody can say, I'm innocent, and point his finger at someone else and say, we didn't ever do it. Trouble is, it's human. The third is creating physical conditions that are likely to bring about the physical destruction of the group. That's the type of genocide in which you actually drive the people out of their territory. That is very common in, for instance, say, Armenian genocide. That was the means that was used. It was used in Sudan by the Sudanese government against the people in South Sudan. The communist government in Ethiopia used it against its people. And they also used it in Darfur, the Sudanese. And are now using it again. It's amazing. That's the most genocidal regime on the face of the planet right now. The fourth is preventing births within the group. And forced sterilizations, things of that sort, are the kinds of things you'd look for that. Well, we know countries that are doing that. China, for example, is using forced sterilizations on a massive basis. And then fifth is is essentially taking the children of that group away from the group and trying to essentially steal the children and raise them as though they were members of another group. We also committed that crime in the United States against Native American children by taking them to schools where they were not permitted to speak their own languages. And Australia did the same with Aboriginal children. What would happen if the government of South Africa took away all your children and said, you may not speak Afrikaans? That would be exactly the kind of act that would be called genocidal under the Genocide Convention. If it was intentional, it would be an act of genocide. Now, I don't know whether, having schools in which only English can be spoken quite is enough. I don't know about that yet. In the United States, we have any kind of language can be spoken in, any group can have its own schools and its own language. And I would hope that that continues here. But if they take away the right of Afrikaners to educate their children as Afrikaners, watch out.